Good evening, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Beer Rating with Sean Connors. As you can see, the beer I have today is Benediktiner Hell. And basically that is a German lager of the Helles type. The style of beer is called Hell. I've heard Hell and Helles, depends on the spelling. Some of the spelling it's H-E-L-L, another one times it's H-E-L-L-E-S, which you can actually see on the can. They actually use both. Bear with me for a second. I'll zoom in, see if you can see it. So you have the Benedikt Hell, H-E-L-L, but if you look below that, you got Helles, lager beer. So you can go with either Hell or Helles. And I'm just going to pour this up, and then I'll read the can. There's not a lot of information on the can, but I'll see what information is there. And then we'll talk a little bit about the style of the beer. So I'm giving my glass a cold water rinse as per normal. And I'm actually using a special glass this week. I actually showed it, I believe, in one other episode, but I never did use it. It's the boot. This is actually a smaller boot, 32 ounces. So let's see how much we get here. And actually, this beer is from the Bavarian Peninsula, which is a state in Germany in the southeast corner, around the Munich area. And Munich area is the main area, my understanding, for Oktoberfest, which is on the go now. So I figured I'd have a beer from the area. And I want to use my boot glass, which is kind of sad because it's only about filled it halfway up. So how to get around that? Always have a second beer. I obviously didn't pour that too well because there's quite a bit of head going on there. I'll do the best I can. And I'll let the beer settle for a second while I read the can. So it's the same beer I got there. Just going to give it an aroma. A little bit of flowery aroma, which is to be expected, as we'll see in a second. And I'll also talk about the boot bottle, or the boot mug, or boot glass, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so on the can we have Bavarian style lager beer. And as I said, the name of the beer is Benediktiner Hell. And then there's some German here. On the back it just says product of Germany. Here's the name of the brewery and the website, which is Benediktiner Weissbier. So that's the name of the brewery. It's 5% alcohol. Ingredients are pretty basic. Water, malted barley, hops. And that's about it. They don't say yeast, which I'm quite surprised, but and everything else is pretty well in German. So there you go. So, as I said, the name of the brewery was Benediktiner Weissbier, and they've been around since about 1884, so 125 years. As I said, they're in Germany, in the Bavarian state, which, as I mentioned, is the southeast corner, in the Munich area. And as I said, it's a Helles lager, which is basically, it's a pale golden lager, and actually the word Hell in German, it's a loose translation is pale, so that's where the name comes from. It's actually my first time having a Helles. Yeah, it's not bad. Not quite decided. These are actually really popular before Pilsner came into being, and once Pilsner came into being, these kind of they weren't as popular anymore. Now, my understanding, if you go around the Bavarian area, if you're out in an establishment, I could be wrong, this is just something I read on the net, if you ask for a beer in the Bavarian Peninsula and just, say, can I have a beer please, without specifying what type, this is what you're going to get. Whereas in other areas of Germany, you ask for a beer, they're going to say, okay, what do you want? Do you want a Helles? Do you want a Pilsner? Do you want a Dunkel? Whatever the case might be. But my understanding around the Bavarian state, they're so popular that if you just ask for a beer, this is pretty well what you're going to get. Not a lot of bitterness, but that's to be expected. Normally the Hell is, it's a low bitterness compared to a Pils, and Pils are pretty popular in that area as well. Saying it's medium body with a clean, bready malt flavor and a floral aroma. That's pretty easy drinking, actually. Yeah, quite enjoyable. Just going to top this up. So that's basically your. Like I said, I couldn't get a lot of information from the brewery itself. I know they've been around since 1894. However, the recipe they use for this beer, my understanding, it's been around for 400 years. It started with some monks. As you can see, even on the can, it has a picture of monk and Benediktiner. Somebody actually mentioned on my Facebook page and said that sounds kind of monkish monastery, but that's originally where the recipe came from. So yeah, that's it. I'm not going to give it a rating quite yet. I still want to taste it. It's a pretty easy drinking beer, I must say. I'm enjoying it. As for the glass, you might be saying, okay, what's with the glass boot? How did it come about? You know, it's a little bit out of the ordinary. The story behind it, there's actually a couple different stories. One was that it was a Prussian general. He was going into battle. They were outnumbered. He pretty well knew they were going to be slaughtered type thing. And he said to your troops, if you win the battle, I'll drink a beer out of my boot. And they actually won the battle. And rather than drinking out of his boot, he had a glass mug done up of a boot. And that's how it came to being. Now there's other stories that say in early England, the higher ups in society, they had a hunting boot with the spurs and everything else. And it was just a elitist thing to do. Another story says in World War I, German soldiers getting ready for battle, it was a good luck thing to drink out of a boot, as another soldier's boot. And they had no glasses available, so I guess it came to a boot. And apparently you tap the boot before you drank it, tap it again, then pass it on to your next person in line. So that's one of the stories. And the other story I heard is that it was a hazing ritual for soldiers. And funnily enough, people that know me, I spent 30 years in the military, 20 years in the Navy, and 10 years in the Air Force. And in my Navy days, I actually did see and even participated out of drinking a boot. It wasn't meant as a hazing ritual or anything like that. It was just basically a bunch of drunken, dumbass sailors, such as myself, sitting around having a couple of beers. And next thing, there's a boot on the table, and that's not much, that's pretty well it. Yeah, so there's several stories how it came out to being and whatnot. On the movie Beer Fest, I think it was in the 2005, 2006, I guess in that movie they actually used a beer boot, so it was known before then, but that pretty well brought it to the mainstream. And ever since then, you see it in a lot of Oktoberfests. I'm not sure about actual Oktoberfest in Europe, but North American, we have our Oktoberfest, our party. A lot of times you'll see, they're giving out glass boots or whatever the case may be. I believe in some areas they have like a relay race, and I believe this is a 1 liter boot. So in the relay race, each participant has to drink out of a 1 liter boot, chug it, and then the last person, I guess, it's a 2 liter boot. So you'll probably see it around, but that's the glass boot. All right. As for a rating for this one, it is, compared to a Pilsner, there's a little bit more body to it, and that's pretty well what I read. So for my rating for the Benediktiner Hell, which I'm probably not pronouncing right, but that's quite common as well, to give it a rating, as I said, my normal ratings, a 1 is I'm not going to finish it, I don't like it, a 2 is I'm not fond of it, but I'll finish it, a 3 is a good beer, a 4 is a very good beer, and a 5 is, heavens opened up, the best beer I ever had. So with this one, I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. Good thing, because I got a liter of it to drink, and I'm pretty comfortable giving this one a 4.0. It's a very good beer. I'm definitely enjoying it. Definitely to have it again. And that's about it. So that's my rating for the Benediktiner Hell, 4.0 out of 5. And I hope you join me next time. Until next beer, as always, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.